I feel like we should address like some of the criticisms and some of the comments that we got from the last stream.
I would love to.
I think the first one is obviously like a lot of people were upset that we, attacked Oriental Adventures. To those people, I say, you hurt. You're hurt. And that's all I can say, because look, those are the kinds of people who don't want us to be loud or don't want us to critique something that they are they're happy not knowing that it's problematic. Mm-hmm. Right? And then there were the people who were like, hey, look, Oriental is not an offensive word.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna pause there. I actually have a different take on it. Take on it.
What do you think?
So Lindsay Ellis published a video maybe a year ago about Mel Brooks movies, right?
Okay.
Like Blazing Saddles. Uh-oh, it's happening. Blazing Saddles is a movie you could not make today, obviously. Like, you cannot make that movie. And that like hurts a lot of people. Like, they are upset by it. They're like, I would love to see a modern Blazing Saddles. And the fact of the matter is, you can both like have fond memories of something. Like, you can watch Blazing Saddles and be like, wow, when I was younger and what have you, this was like at the time and in the place and the context, this was like a very good piece of media. But you can still be critical of it. So I'm sure people have very legitimate, very valid, positive experiences with Oriental Adventures, and I'm happy for you. I want you to love things.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that you can both love it and also say that these things cause harm. And I think I would challenge people to like level up themselves and live with both as a very complex individual.
Yeah, I agree. It's the same kind of people who, I mean, when the Lone Ranger was remade, there were a lot of issues with that. A lot of people really had nostalgia for the original Lone Ranger. Or even when Green Hornet got remade. I honestly, just say what you want about that movie, I thought it was a wise choice for a remake. Right? Like, how are you gonna... Bruce Lee was just his sidekick, right? If they relegated him to that stereotype or that role, it just wouldn't have worked. But what they did was they made Green Hornet kind of incompetent because it was Seth Rogen. Yeah. And they made Jay Chow Bruce Lee. Was his name, Kato. Yep. And he was the one pulling everyone together, and I thought that was a brilliant move.
Oh yeah, Big Trouble in Little China, same idea, amazing setup, and just great way to like show the audience like a good time.
Yeah.
And to also like critique a little bit of like how we view Asians.
Yeah, 100%. I think there are ways of touching on nostalgia while also, making things better. And I think that's what they're doing wrong with the Conan stuff. Like, Conan as a media property in general is just not good. Let's just be honest. There's so much racism and misogyny embedded within Conan that it's just like, if you were going to completely remake it, it would be very difficult too. Like, I have a lot of nostalgia for the Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan movies. I thought they were pretty dope as a kid. Like, you see Arnold Schwarzenegger pushing that wheel of pain and becoming like super jacked and everything. It's just like, oh damn. But then there are also things in there that are like, oh, that doesn't hold up.
Yep.
And we're gonna see this as like time goes on. I mean, like, for instance, one thing that I predict won't hold up very well is Harry Potter.
Yeah. Just focusing on the Asian representation in Harry Potter. Yeah. We could have an entire other spin-off.
Yeah, I mean, Harry Potter, I mean, even as a story, honestly, like, Harry is the least interesting character of that entire like sort of property. He's so boring. Yep. He's a rich jock. He's a trust fund kid. And and he gets along, I would say, no, he doesn't. The plot progresses at a positive rate for him because of his friends and sheer luck. But everybody around him is super competent. But Harry is the one who's just a complete fuck up. But we're supposed to idolize Harry. But also, yeah, representation at Hogwarts is at like an all-time bad, and then J.K. Rowling continues to just destroy that entire world through her Twitter.
Yep.
She does a poor job at that. But anyways,
we could talk about Harry Potter, like the Asian student that you see who is just a dragon lady.
Yeah.
And then later into like Fantastic Beasts, where literally the only Asian person is a snake lady.
Yep. Yep. And of course, I mean, like, yeah, Cho Chang was bad, but yeah, they really. I don't want. Harry Potter is a different one. Harry Potter's a different one. Let's get into Oriental Adventures. So
Goody.
oh goody. Because so many people are asking for more. Like people, I gotta say, like people really want this. I think people wish this was Asians Represent, but this would be a terrible podcast. I think if we just talked about this and like read through the book, I don't think it'd be as interesting as if it was, say, a live stream like this where we could interact with people who join us in the chat.
I totally agree. Were there any other comments that you wanted to address before we dove into it?
No, I think we're good.
There was one that I wanted to talk a little bit about. It was the one who was I believe it's a man from Malaysia.
Oh yes, that one who was like my friends aren't offended by it. Is that person?
Yeah. I think that's like a really good talking point. And the reason is because James Mendez Hodes wrote an entire article about appropriation and like what it means.
Yeah.
And I loved his take on it because he was like, don't focus on the line in the sand. That's not helpful for anyone. What you need to focus on, or what he challenged you to focus on, is like, what are the power dynamics involved in the thing you're talking about? And I believe the person when they wrote that in Malaysia, Oriental is not like a slur and people don't find it offensive because the power dynamics are different there than it would be in North America, where we have a history of Chinese Exclusion Act. We have politicians calling it Chinese virus. Like, these are power dynamics that really, really affect how we view certain words, and then how those words are used or how they're weaponized to cause harm.
Yeah, and I mean that ties in really well to, the whole thing with Andrew Yang. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is Andrew Yang was, for Asian Americans, was like the guy. And then in one op-ed, he became the enemy for good reason. Because his solution to all the racism that Asians are facing right now is to assimilate.
Yeah.
And like ditch the cultural signifiers. He basically said, hey, be less fobby. That's what he said.
Yeah. Like, don't work in a restaurant. Become like a lawyer.
Wear red, white, and blue.
Right?
That was literally what he said. And it was so infuriating. And then Eddie Wong hit him with like the baddest insult ever. Called him a bumbling pineapple bun, which I thought was great.
I think Stephen Ewan, he tweeted about it, and I was like, yes, give that. And I think Stephen Ewan was just like all lowercase, just like, this ain't it.
I really want, if there were ever to be a movie about me, I would want to be played by Stephen Ewan, even though he's Korean.
Interesting.
That or Keanu Reeves, but
I don't want to get into it, but I did recently watch Okja. Has Stephen Ewan in it.
Yeah.
And I read into like the Korean American aspect of it, and it was so fascinating. But that's for like something else.
Did that movie make you want to go vegetarian?
No. And like the reasoning behind it is because I feel like Boone was really talking about like classism and capitalism, not necessarily dietary choices.
I haven't seen the movie because I heard it will make you cry, and I'm not in the state to do it.
Can I tell you the one joke that you won't get unless you speak Korean?
Okay.
So Stephen Ewan, there's a very specific scene in the movie where Stephen Ewan is a translator for this Korean girl who doesn't speak English.
Okay.
And they're speaking to like these white, basically PETA, right? Mm-hmm. And the person is supposed to be kind of a hero, but actually not really, and says, hey, I will not do this plan unless I have your consent. If you consent to our plan, then we'll continue. But if you say no, we'll send you home and you can pretend this never happens. And the little girl says, send me home. And Stephen Ewan translates it to say she consents.
Whoa.
So that's like a big, big thing, right?
Yeah.
And she doesn't understand. Right. Then at the very end, Stephen Ewan looks to her and he says something in Korean. And what he actually says is that his real name is, and I forget his real name, but it's a silly name. It's a name that like sounds stupid. Like if your name was like Alfred Butterford, you'd be like, that's a silly sounding name. He says that, but the subtitle says, hey kid, learn English. It opens up many doors.
Oh, dang. Well, that's Andrew Yang right there.
Yeah.
Dang. Last thing for me in terms of news, Train to Busan, the sequel to Train to Busan, the trailer is now out.
I lost my phone. I can't look it up.
Okay, lost your phone. I tweeted it this morning, so it's on my Twitter page. For those of you who are looking for the trailer for Train to Busan, the sequel, it is on my Twitter page at Daniel H. Kwan. But anyways, let's dive into it. Last time we made it 10 pages into Oriental Adventures. We are on page 11, the first section of character classes and races. Let's do it. It does look more like a regular zombie movie. Okay. So, Steve, last time you said you wanted to do more of the reading, and I will do the moderation since I have OBS in front of me.
I think what I said was I'm willing to give you a break. I don't think I said I wanted to do more reading, but
Steve,
fact remains, I'll start. All right, so we're looking at the screen here. Character classes and races. Every character in Oriental AD&D Adventure must be a member of a class. A character's class is analogous to his profession. It provides a niche for the character to operate within. Players have 10 classes to choose from: Barbarian, Bushi, Kensei, Monk, Ninja, Samurai, Shukenja, Sohei, Wujin, and Yakuza. Let's get through these.
Barbarians are hunters, raiders, and nomads. Those are like very different things.
Yes. And I think from our first time reading through this, you brought up something very good. It was like, hey, audience, focus on how Asians are shown as objects of sexual desire.
Yep.
They're violent.
Yep. And they are in need of saving.
Yes. So here we have hunters, which not necessarily violent. Raiders, definitely violent. And nomads, from a colonial standpoint, worth saving.
Yeah, I think here's the thing. I will say this. A lot of people said that their comeliness was a stat that was in other D&D stuff prior to Oriental Adventures. Apparently, it was in Unearthed Arcana before this. But the point Steve and I were making during our last stream was that including comeliness in a book about Asians has certain undertones to it. Has certain implications to it, and that has to deal with the feminization of Asian men and the objectification of Asian women. So I wanted to address that. But yeah, I think somebody asked where the origins of the Yakuza. I believe that's like the 17th century. That's like the 1600s. Oh, hey, Mia. The one thing I don't like about this, and this is not even from like the perspective of an Asian person, it's from an anthropological perspective.
Ooh, you're going to drop some history.
Oh, I'm not going to drop some history. I know you want that.
I do.
And I will. I will when the time comes. But barbarian has a certain connotation to the level of society, right? We look at this sort of dichotomy between civilized and savage, right? And barbarian generally fits into the savage side of this argument here. When we look at hunters, right, we think, oh, hunters, are they, in Europe, we think of like the noble hunter, the man on his horse with his dog and his gun, right? Or we think of the humble archer, like the ranger in D&D. Raiders are obviously evil, right? In Europe, you see the Vikings, and they are technically raiders because the word Viking is a verb. It is to go a Viking, to go raiding, right? And then we see nomad, and that's the thing that kind of pisses me off, because what is a nomad? Somebody who lives a semi-sedentary life, somebody who doesn't have a quote-unquote permanent home, and the landscape around you is your home, and where you sleep changes from time to time, right? But in putting those two, that particular word under barbarian, it basically says that one way of life is inferior to another. And then from an Asian perspective, we look at the people who live in the north of Asia, right? Who live in yurts, or who might live a semi-sedentary life because they are pastoralists. And that is to say that these people are barbarians because they do not live in fixed locations. That's what I don't like about putting nomad into barbarian. That's what I dislike about it. So it's not necessarily an Asian thing. I just don't like that because it says, you are not civilized. And it even says here, they live by instinct and natural talents beyond the bounds of civilization. So instinct and natural talents means that they don't have, knowledge that they pass on to other people. They are just born barbarians.
Yeah.
I think that's narratively poor.
Yes. I think one criticism we got was that we weren't being positive enough. I took that to heart. I know maybe I should.
No,
maybe I shouldn't.
I disagree with that because you tried very, very hard to be positive, and you said it many times. You were like, "Hey, I'm gonna do my best to try to, find the good in this book," and we did. We found some things.
Some things, yeah.
Some things, but yeah. So I wouldn't say force the good.
Yeah, I will say I personally doubled down on wanting to find the good in this. And if I was to find the good in this, it's that it's clear like what kind of story they want to write with barbarians, but they've scoped it down too much.
Yes.
Right? Like you've really narrowed down an entire type of culture into like these 3 adjectives or 3 like labels, however you want to call it. And they're just too limiting. Basically, you've removed human expression from this type of person.
Yeah. Or the ability to change. Because it's
Absolutely.
only instinct and natural talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned how many pages we're going to get through, and we've got through paragraph 1.1.
Oh.
Sorry. I have a lot of feelings about this book.
I do too. And a lot of people are just like, finish this one, then go to 3.0, then go to L5R.
Oh.
I don't think L5R will be as bad, but there are multiple editions of L5R that we have to go through. So...
yeah. Okay, well, let's continue, though.
Let's continue.
Okay, so Bushi are professional soldiers from all ranks of society. Kensei are martial artists in the purest sense. Their life is devoted to mastering a single weapon and achieving perfection in its use.
Mm-hmm.
I say that, and I feel like I have to say something about it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
something about that, like...
You should say something about it.
Yeah.
Because the Kensei is a class that appears into 3rd edition D&D as well. And 3.5 because it appears in Complete Warrior.
Oh, can you hear that? Is that construction going on?
Oh, no, that's just Sarah. She was doing something downstairs. Oh, that. Tapping. That's on your end.
That's my end? Okay, I'm sorry. I guess my neighbor upstairs, I'm going to assume they are a cosplayer, and they're just making something rad.
You just live in this, like, enclave of cosplayers.
So I have this. What bugs me the most about this, I think, is the word purist sense and the idea of like devoted life to. And it's tough for me because like a lot of people devote their lives to a thing that like can happen, but they're more than that. And I feel like it touches too close to me about the idea of like a model minority. Do you know what I mean? Like someone who fits very nicely in a box.
Oh, you mean with all these classes?
Yeah.
I don't see it yet. I don't see it yet. I see so far like the barbarian is like, they just want the barbarians in Asia are supposed to be the Mongols. That's what they want. The Bushi are clearly supposed to be the samurai, professional soldiers. The Kensei are supposed to be sword saints because that's what it means and translates to in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting because they have professional soldiers, but then they also have a class that they've so far, and this is only the one sentence description, that so far is supposed to be somebody who is spiritual and has fighting. Oh wait, no, I read one. Somebody who masters a single weapon and has perfected its use. So I think that's the least offensive of them so far, to be honest, of the 3.
Okay. Okay. We obviously disagree on this one. I feel my spider senses were tinkling. Let's continue though.
We're gonna get into them because as we progress through it, we're gonna read it in more detail.
Yep. Monks seek to create a perfect union between mind and body through the practice of meditation and fighting skills.
You know what?
Yeah.
So what were you gonna say?
I was gonna move on.
I was gonna move on because I don't think it was as bad as the 5th edition monk.
I kind of agree.
Because
it's like honest.
It's not super spiritual because people can just meditate to meditate, and mind and body must be linked to fight. Any martial artist would say that regardless of discipline. I don't think it's that bad. And everybody's like, what are they going to say about the monk? And then we skip over it. Yeah,
it could be better if I were to improve this. I like seek to create perfect union. That
Yeah.
actually feels very like Asian. I don't like saying that. That seems weird to say, but like that resonates with me as a person who identifies as Asian.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that one.
Through the practice of meditation, and I wouldn't say fighting skills. That focuses too much on violence. I would say martial skills.
Yeah. Martial skills would be the way to improve that one. But I like how they have it outright said, you master your chi. Like, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that they haven't done that here.
Yep. We'll see what happens when we get into the actual like stuff, but
yeah,
the description is great.
Ninja.
It's okay. Ninja are practitioners of ninjutsu, the art of invisibility. They are masters of stealth, disguise, acrobatics, and assassination. They cannot operate openly, so all ninja must also be bushi, sohei, hujin, or yakuza.
Mechanically,
yeah, go ahead.
Mechanically, I don't like that last bit because it's like, well, ninja then becomes like a background or like a prestige class or a class option for all of the classes. Like, yes, you can't operate openly because you're like a stealth character, but it doesn't mean you have to. It doesn't mean you have to be another profession. You could, pretend to be a farmer or anything like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
it strikes me as weird.
It's weird, but I'm gonna say, as like from a design perspective, I kind of like it. And the reason I like it is because I think it challenges the player to really think about how they're going to interact with both the other players, NPCs, and the world. I don't think it belongs in a class, as classes are like a profession. I think a profession that immediately must like mimic and hide doesn't belong at first level.
No, so you think it's more of a prestige class in that sort of sense?
It really does feel like more prestige class, and there was one called the Mont Blanc and 3.5.
Yeah, but what about somebody who wants to tell the story of say their character who was raised by ninja?
I'm gonna adopt this from Mendez because we played Thousand Arrows, which is a historical fantasy of like Japan in 1600s. I might have my dates wrong. I'm very not versed in Japanese history. But what we considered ninja, he called rangers. Yeah. And something in my mind just clicked. I'm like, that makes so much more sense. That's so much cooler too.
So you think in this case it could be somebody who's playing a bushi or professional soldier with that emphasis or build towards stealth and ranged combat if you're using dexterity?
Absolutely, I think so. You know what's a great example? It's actually Ning from our podcast.
Yeah, that 100%.
Because the whole idea of being like a secret assassin, that's I think that what that boils down to, is not built into the class, but built into the conversation that the GM and the player had. By just building it in, the player almost like forces the GM to be like, this is how I'm gonna play it, which I don't think is very helpful in a storytelling game. I think in a storytelling game you actually want to have the conversation with the GM to say, hey, this is my idea, I'd like to make it work, what are your thoughts? Which is exactly how like we had the conversation. I'm
curious. I'm just pulling up the Pathfinder SRD because it's free. And I want to see what they did. Yeah, the ninja is a default class, but they just made it the rogue, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they basically, you get a key pool and everything as a ninja in Pathfinder. I never played it because I didn't think it was that interesting. It's almost like, in 3.5 and 3.0 in the Dungeon Master's Guide, they had the prestige classes where you could find like Dwarven Defender and Arcane Archer. Yep. It's almost like the Assassin. That's what the Pathfinder one is like. Okay. Samurai.
So samurai are members of an elite class of warrior nobility. Their prime duty is to be absolutely loyal to their master, the daimyo, and serve him however he commands.
I want to see how they make the distinction between a samurai and a bushi, or a samurai, bushi, and kensei in this.
Yes, absolutely I do.
I really want to see how they draw the line between them.
Yep.
Shikenja.
Shikenja are wandering holy men. They act as teachers, advisors, and healers to whomever needs their aid. They are respected by all They're respected for all for their devotion and magical abilities.
I was curious, and I literally looked up Shukenja on Google, because this is not a term that I'm familiar with. And literally the first things that came up were all D&D stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if anybody in the chat knows if there's something different about this Shukenja, or what they were supposed to be inspired by, please let us know, because I don't. I mean, there are lots of different types of, like, temple-going priests, things like that. So maybe the Shukenja is supposed to be that.
Well, how about this? How about I search Google Scholar? Oh,
yeah.
Shukenja. And the first result is Oriental Adventures. Fuck.
God damn it.
I'm going to say this. This is a word created just for Oriental Adventures. And I say that with, like, pretty
having
positive.
Having gone on Google Scholar and having gone on Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a shame. And the reason is because the idea of a wandering holy man as a teacher, advisor, and healer who just, like, helps people is not an idea you had to, like, arm wrestle, like, Asian culture to find.
No.
Like, definitely not.
They're pretty much universal to all cultures in some form or another.
And I think what happened was Gary Gygax and team were like, we need a cleric who's Asian. And they couldn't find anything because their research was not deep enough. Or their idea of what a cleric is didn't match what they were finding in their research. I'm going to assume they did a bunch of research. And they were like, let's just make it up.
You know what we did, though? Oh, no, go ahead. No, we did. You know what we did? We did this. I did this exactly for Dungeons and Asians. And I said, what's our cleric going to be? And then Agatha listed off all of the things that a cleric could be in China. Acupuncture.
Every time we talk to Agatha about, like, D&D classes, and, like, she's never played D&D, so, like, it's always so refreshing. We're just like, this is what it is in D&D, and, like, she just, like, the floodgates open, and I'm like, it's amazing. It's right? Like the greatest thing to be a part of.
So let's think of all these historical figures in ancient China, the sages, the priests, right? The people who practice healing with herbs, acupuncture. Just think about traditional Chinese medicine.
Yep.
That's a whole class right there. And you could D&D it all up if you really wanted to and have the acupuncturist be able to immobilize people with their needles. Yep. And you could hit their meridians and all that. Right? Traditional Chinese medicine is your way of having a cleric.
Yep.
And they just, like, completely fuck that up because this is totally a like Western medicine rules sort of thing.
So this is where I get to talk a little bit about healing in D&D and how the idea of a healing potion is actually super, like, westernized, in my opinion.
Okay.
The idea of like shooting some kind of, like, tonic, and that tonic somehow gives you, like, superhuman abilities.
Snake oil.
You really miss other ways of delivering healing properties to human beings. There are ideas of, like, smelling salts. Like, your healing potions could absolutely be smelling salts. Use the same mechanics of, like, use an action to, like, administer, but a smelling salt can do it. It can be something you inhale, smoked. These are all, like, ideas that are taken from other cultures, and you can absolutely just take the idea of make your hit points go up, and just, like, make it so much more interesting, so much more diverse.
Drink a potion, heal this much, you're good to go. So somebody in the chat said, Shugendo is a highly syncretic religion that originated in, I honestly don't know how to pronounce that, but in Japan. And practitioners are called Sugenja or Yamabushi. So they changed some letters.
I think the G and the K sound very similar. So maybe they thought the K looked better in print.
That's stupid. Okay. So
well, if you make it a K, it looks more like ninja. Shukenja.
Wow.
That's
the
typographer in me.
No. Okay, no. So Sohei is the one that we talked about in the last stream. That's one where they made her look all sexy.
Can you pull up that picture while I read this description?
I'll pull up the picture. Why don't you read the description? Yeah.
I love that picture. I think that picture belongs in a museum, but I say that in the most memeiest sense. because it is an artifact of like where we come from a tabletop RPG perspective. Anyways,
it bothers me.
It bothered everyone when I tweeted it. Anyways, Sohei are warrior priests, though more warrior than priest. They protect monasteries from attacks and extend the monastery's political claims. Sohei have limited magical abilities. Sounds like a monk.
Sounds like a monk, but remember, they were like in the Oriental Adventures book, which I'm trying to find on my computer. But in the Oriental Adventures book, in 3rd edition, they talk about how the Sohei are outsiders.
Yep.
And how they're not from this region. God, where did I put it?
Cargill, I like that a lot. They're very angry monks. They're more angry than monk.
They're angry monks. But there's just something more. Hold up. I'm just gonna Sohei.
Oh, you're just gonna Google it? Yeah, it's gonna come up immediately.
Sohei 3.5 images. Here we go. I'll just do this. Come on. There you
go.
God.
Oh.
There we go. I got it. There we go.
Okay.
There's our Sohei. That's what they're referring to. Ugh. Although, there is this art over here that somebody's posted, some sort of variant. See, I like that. Oh, that's cool. If only. See, this is almost how I picture many of the characters in Dungeons and Asians.
I love it because it's so cohesive. That's the only word I can think of. It's just like it comes together and it feels like its own thing. When you look at the 3.5 Sohei, it feels like they wanted a naked woman, but knew they would get in trouble for it. So they're like, what's Asian enough that we can get away with this?
Yeah, or like, look at this one. Ooh, I like this one. See, this is how I imagined, like, Ning. If Ning was just, like, in battle and was just, like, really pissed off and a human.
Yeah.
See, that looks good. Like, her armor looks functional. She looks like she's gonna kill me.
It looks functional, and it's, like, awe-inspiring. Like, if you were a soldier and your commander came out looking like that, you would say, like, yes, like, this is who I want to fight for. This is who I'm willing to, like, come to arms with.
That's the Pathfinder samurai over there.
Also, because I know that, like, there's less of an audience for these streams, my wig came in for Ning, so I'm very excited. It's a short wig that I bought the extension for. We're gonna braid it. We're gonna clip it in and just have it like wrap. It's good. I got plans.
Dang. Oh, I want to see that. Oh, dude, why did you have to? Why you gotta do that to me?
That's really, really good.
Yeah. That's cool.
I'll let you like keep scrolling through Sohei fan art because it's actually dope.
I just caught a fly with my bare hands.
Oh, you're a Sohei.
I'm a Sohei. I just caught a moth with my bare hands on stream. What?
It's like real life Animal Crossing.
It's like with my neck.
It's 130 bells.
Yo, if we could live in a world where I could just walk around and shake trees for money and $100 just falls from a tree, I mean, our economy would be so fucked up. But
I mean, let's do a podcast on Asian Represent about Animal Crossing.
People would want that.
People would want that shit.
Yo, my house in Animal Crossing looks so Asian. I got Asian fencing. I got bamboo. I've got like a pool, and I have Godzilla outside my house, towering over my house.
I'm so excited for my Animal Crossing house. My back room has a pull-up bar. It has a bench for bench press, and the outside wallpaper is animated. It's fucking animated, and it's
cool.
A crowd cheering like they're in like a boxing ring.
Do you want a boxing bag? Because I have 2 of them. Like a punching bag? I've got one.
I was going to say no, but the answer is yes, I do want that.
I've got 2 of them, so we'll do that. Anyways,
do it after the stream. Wujen.
Wujen.
Wujen are sorcerers and magicians. They usually live as hermits in remote areas and are greatly feared and respected for their powers.
I mean, it's not overtly bad.
No.
Because that's kind of the same thing as the sort of the Western European wizard.
It's a hag witch or a hedge wizard or things like that. Like, there's someone on the outside of society who is weird and to be feared.
Yeah, it's Radagast in The Hobbit.
Yep.
Yakuza, thugs and extortionists. They are also peacekeepers and guardians of the common man. Could have just said common folk. Structured bands of Yakuza collect tribute from local merchants in exchange for protection. So, I kind of like that.
Sure.
I kind of like that. I mean, it makes sense to have the Yakuza in addition to the samurai because of these historical ties between the two. But what I like about the Yakuza here in this description is that they are also peacekeepers and guardians of the common man, or the common folk, they should have said. What I like about that is that the Yakuza still exist today, and they are like deeply embedded in Japanese business and the economy and society. So, what I like about that is that, you know, when a lot of these natural disasters hit Japan, I just caught another moth.
No way.
I'm not even kidding. Yeah.
So next stream, Daniel's just gonna catch moths. Asians read and Daniel catches moths.
Sorry. Wow. Clip that. But added to my YouTube channel, my highlight reel. Wasted. What I like is that, you know, all these natural disasters affected Japan, and the Yakuza actually helped the economy, and they actually helped people by, you know, offering supplies and things like that. So I think that's like an interesting choice, and rather than making them just like terrible, terrible criminals. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, I agree. I want to echo something from chat from Cargill.
I saw that.
They're saying not the moth thing.
Oh, okay.
They're not always criminals. Like they do live on like that weird line between what's law and unlaw. But they didn't paint them as like thugs always. Right?
I thought you said they didn't paint them as thugs, and it just says Yakuza are thugs.
Yeah, I guess there's enough leeway in the way it's written that I can imagine them as like almost someone who's looked up to in certain like communities.
Yeah, I would just say that like Yakuza live outside, or Yakuza operate outside the rules of society.
Yeah, definitely.
I would have said something like that.
Yeah, and like players would eat that up. That's gonna resonate with a lot of players. That's good design,
right? Because you live outside you operate outside of the rules, but that doesn't necessarily have to make you evil, right? Maybe the rules themselves are oppressive, right? And that's still, just because you operate outside the rules doesn't mean you're evil, and it doesn't pigeonhole you into one style of player. Maybe you are overtly evil, but maybe you're also good, and you're like Robin Hood.
Yeah,
right?
I would love a Robin Hood that is a Yakuza. Okay. Moving on here, we got some more flavor text. Besides defining a character's profession, class also indicates a general way the character's social status. Each of the 10 character classes in the Oriental AD&D game has a basic position in the caste structure. Oh, we're gonna talk about castes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they gotta. I think.
I wasn't ready for that.
I wonder if they put that in the Conan book too.
Yes, it's in the tweet. The tweet says, fuck, let me pull this up. Features to new homelands, castes, talents, backgrounds, stories, and gear for those with itchy sandals. That is the tweet.
They say itchy sandals?
They say itchy sandals.
Oh, I hate that. Oh, and then Steve takes a long.
They say itchy sandals.
Yeah, like, I mean, footwear is a big thing. Like, it's a signifier of social status. Even to this day in our society, like what you wear is, you know, a signifier of your wealth, but also how much you care about of what people think of you, right?
I promise I would try to find like positive things.
We found
Have you seen Fast and the Furious, Hobbs and Shaw?
You know what? Sarah and I were watching it last night, and we got like 10 minutes in. We're going to finish it tonight, I think.
Oh, I think you're really gonna like it. So without spoiling too much, they do go to Samoa.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, it's in the trailer.
Okay, so great. So you know that.
Yeah.
That archetype of like your mom threatening to slap you with a slipper is fucking hilarious. I love that.
How many of you Asians in the chat have had a parent and are over the age of 20? I say that because the younger Asian kids might not have had this. Yep. But Steve, you and I are both like over 30. I'm 30. How many of you in chat have had your parents say, "Go get me the feather duster"? Like a slipper? That's some weak ass shit.
Yeah.
Wooden spoon. Wooden spoon, right? And it's the bamboo feather duster.
Yep, I know that.
That had actual feathers. That's the one.
But it's such like a visceral thing.
It is.
I hope in 2 decades it's no longer a funny joke. I hope it's like seen as like a very negative thing. But in today's talking about power structures, in today's society, it's absolutely fucking hilarious. And you see who is supposed to be The Rock's mother threaten people like, if you don't do what I say, and she takes off her slipper, and it's like, it's great. I love it. I love it.
I love all the Fast and Furious movies, and I love that Han is coming back.
I have questions about it though, from a narrative perspective.
Do you think he's gonna be a robot? Do you think he's gonna be like Asian Superman, like Idris Elba?
I think he's gonna be Asian Superman. I think.
You know what? I'm totally okay with that because Han got to kiss Wonder Woman.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
I talked about this on the podcast too. Like Han as a character is so groundbreaking, and it's weird saying groundbreaking and tying that to Fast and Furious, but Han is such an incredible character because he completely subverts everything we talked about in the last stream about Oriental Adventures. Right? He's cool. He's rugged. He's charismatic.
Yep.
Right? And he's a leader, not a follower. Like, fucking love Han. I don't care that he's gonna maybe be a robot or an alien or a lizard man in a skin suit. I don't care. It's Han.
Yep. For me, it's Glenn. I love Walking Dead. I hate it, but I love it. Anyways.
Okay.
We got sidetracked. We talked about casts. I went to Conan. We talked about some of this stuff. Moving on. The caste system is not absolutely rigid, however. Characters of exceptional ability can rise above their caste, gaining power and influence over their betters. Likewise, characters of high caste who fall on hard times may be unable to command the respect that would normally be their due. Player characters will find many opportunities to reach beyond their artificial limits imposed by society. Moving on. And so should not feel too restricted by their position.
I mean, this is just all about like social ladder climbing.
Yep.
I think the one thing that would make this better, because yes, the caste systems sadly are still present in the world and aren't a great thing. And to take these things and put them in the game is probably not a great decision. But they did it. Okay? But they did it. The one thing that I would put to make this a little bit better, in the second sentence, they talk about how people of exceptional ability can rise above their caste, gaining power and influence over their betters. Okay? So, the one thing I would add to change this whole paragraph is to talk about community, to talk about how interconnected people are, right? Because while we do see a lot of very rigid and institutionalized social inequality, the one thing that we see at all levels of society are communities. And I would have put that in there. It would have made it a little less cringy.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add to that.
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, this section here, this page, not as bad as the first 10.
Definitely not. No, I think we're spiraling off a lot because I think that really alludes to the fact that there was a lot of things seeded here that were like pretty okay, like things we wanted to talk about. Yeah. As two people who like identify as Asian, that's a good thing. We wanted to talk about it more. That's great for like this intro, this preamble.
Mm-hmm.
there were some problems with it, but that's why you hire sensitivity consultants and cultural consultants.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what we're doing right now is a sensitivity read. We're doing a cultural consultation that's, I don't know, 40
years too
late.
Yeah. Moving on. Players familiar with AD&D games should note that there are a few differences between the rules they are familiar with and the Oriental AD&D rules. The concept of proficiency has been expanded to include skills beyond weaponry. Most characters have also special key powers, spiritual energy and spirit energy or spirit force, associated with their class. Many characters place great importance on their family or clan. Finally, honor. A character's personal honor, the honor of the Lord and the honor of his family, is vital, if not overriding concern that guides many of the character's actions.
Fealty.
Honor.
So, the chi thing. This is again, to say that all Asians are spiritual. All Asians have inherent spiritual abilities. I fucking hate that. There's nothing much more to say. It's like that plays on this whole Mystic Asia, whatever that was Mystic Asia, Mystic East.
It's Mystic East, yeah. It was Mystic Mulan.
Mystic Mulan.
Yeah.
Just to say that, I think it bothers me. I don't know. I'm not very spiritual and I don't have powers.
I think it because of the way like chi or ki kind of like is written, it really blurs the lines of like what is magical talent in Dungeons and Dragons. And when you read it, there is no difference. There really isn't.
Except for the sorcerer, or you have the blood of something.
Yeah, but even then, like the sorcerer is like honing it as time goes on, right? Learning or unlearning and things like that.
Okay. I thought you meant in terms of origin.
In terms of origin, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But to your point, yeah, ki is like a cleric's divinity power, right? It's through like meditation, prayer, things like that. But in Dungeons and Dragons, there's a very clear like distinction about it. It allows you to like stop someone's heart.
Yeah, ki is not your vital force. Because like yes, in traditional Chinese medicine, like chi flows through everybody, right? It is your vital essence, your life force. But you're right. In D&D, this vital essence, this concept, that it's honestly very complicated. Yeah. Very complicated. Like NDA land here, writing something that involves chi. And
how much of the game can you talk about?
And it got complicated trying to fit it within an existing game. Mm-hmm. Which is why they need to be really clear about what it is here. But here, it's like, you're right. Chi is used for fighting. Chi is used for harming others, in this case. Yep. And then honor, that's just like, let's just move on. Because I know we're going to, I think if we get to page 30, we hit something on honor.
Once we get to honor, I want to drop out of this. I want to hear what Mendez has to say about this.
Yeah,
Mendez on here, and I want to hear what he has to say.
Here's the thing. We're going to get multiple people on. I think we're going to have multiple guests on this.
I would love that, and I think a lot of people, even in chat, have a lot of feels, and they're very passionate about this, and I love that. I love us as a community. That's wonderful to me.
I think what would be really cool, and it doesn't necessarily work for this book, but when we do the 3rd edition Oriental Adventures, I think we need to get some Asian artists on. Like, it's almost like we have like a writer, an editor, an artist, anything like that, and then we critique it from our own specialties and experiences.
I love how you assume that I could, like, you've almost implied I could be any one of those things when I am not.
Look, you could be anything you want.
Oh, I'm gonna keep reading to bring the level back down. Otherwise, it's too much for me. Characters in Oriental AD&D adventure need not be humans. Karatur, which is their Asian,
it's their Asia.
It's only Japan, Korea, China, and
Mongolia.
Yeah, is a land of exotic customs and exotic creatures. Characters can be members of any one of the 4 races: human, and yokai. I think I mispronounced that.
I think it's just supposed to be like yokai.
Yokai. Oh, you're right. Yeah, the end is yokai. Corvo Crow or spirit folk. So yokai are
those are like spirits.
yeah, are intelligent animals which can assume human form. Korobukuru are small, hairy men who live in remote wildernesses, delight in nature, simple art, and craft. I think we read somewhere where they immediately drew the
I'll show you what
equivalent.
they look like.
I think earlier on in this book they actually drew the equivalent. They're just like bad dwarves.
Yeah, this is what they look like in D&D. This is from the Forgotten Realms wiki. F! Come on, computer. It's like my computer doesn't even want to put this on stream.
Your computer's like, you know what? This is enough, Daniel.
That's the Corvo.
That's
Crow.
enough.
This is the image that I was drawing on last time. Look how bad that is.
Oh man.
And it's got it's got a blade here, and it's cut off the head of a cat. That shit's awful. And like its eyes and lips and its hair. I've never seen an East Asian person with that much arm hair. Let's be honest.
Let's talk about this. Here's why I want to talk about this. Amar, who's not here, obviously, talked a lot about body hair and the representation of body hair. And I want to talk about it because sexuality and identifying as Asian, the cross-section of that really speaks to me. At some point in time, we'll talk about kind of like Asian sexuality, how the media like thinks bodies should look and what have you, and like the negative impacts it's had on my life. But talking about just the fact that body hair is equated to badness. There's no other adjective I can think of. If you have body hair, you are bad. And I feel like that statement could resonate with like a lot of different minorities. And here we see it codified within the art of this campaign setting. And I think that causes a lot of harm. And I think a lot of people see themselves and they see that picture and they think like, maybe I have arm on my hairs or hair on my arms, hair on my chest. Maybe my mustache grows out like that. And all I can think to myself is like, I'm sorry if like this is where you saw it.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean like, and that actually ties into something that we're going to talk about on Asians Represent, because I'm recording a new episode of the podcast next week on Japan. Yeah, so we're going to be talking, if I'm going to see if I can get Amar or Jade in. It might just be me. But I'm talking to a scholar, an Asian scholar who lives and works in Hokkaido in northern Japan, studying the Ainu, and talking about representations of Japanese people in media in general. And, you know, one of those things is that when you think about, and I challenge everybody in chat to do this, when you think about a Japanese person, what do you see? And you see somebody who looks stereotypically East Asian. But there are other cultural minorities in Japan. Some might be analogous to what we call the indigenous peoples of North America, and they're the Ainu. They have big beards. The women traditionally had tattoos. They tattooed their lips, and they have beautiful bands on their arms. Right? They live in northern Japan traditionally, and a lot of people always equate them to this archaeological, and this is where I'm going to drop you some archaeological knowledge.
Yeah.
And a lot of people equate them, maybe probably incorrectly, to the prehistoric people of Japan called the Jomon. Okay? So for the chat, I'm going to type the Jomon. And I guarantee you have seen, if you watch anime or anything like that, you have seen Jomon archaeology. And you have probably seen the Jomon Dogu, because these feature in all anime. They're in every anime that has some sort of fantasy element to it. You'll see these figures in. I did my master's on Jomon ceramics, and the Jomon lived in Japan for a very long time. A lot of people might actually say that the Jomon made some of the oldest pottery in the world. And Japan was actually later colonized by people called the Yayoi. Now, the yayoi, okay, the yayoi were prehistoric people, and they actually are believed to have entered Japan from the south, and they moved their way up, displacing the Jomon all the way into Hokkaido. Okay. Now, that's also, unfortunately, where most of the Ainu are. So a lot of this narrative of a cultural majority in Japan, the Yayoi, displacing the indigenous peoples, the Jomon, is very similar to how the ethnic majority of Japan treats the Ainu. And the Ainu face incredible socioeconomic challenges because of the incredible amount of racism that exists against these people. This is what. So if you just do Jomon and then video games, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
The Jomon right here, that design is actually seen on those large ancient constructs in Breath of the Wild. If you turn Jomon pottery upside down, it looks exactly like a shrine, right? There's actually a media term called the Jomon boom. And it's actually this effect where you actually see Jomon art, like Jomon artifacts, like cultural signifiers, in Japanese pop culture. Like you see the pottery everywhere. There's actually Golden Kamuy is different. We're not gonna. That's what we're gonna talk about later. But you see the Jomon everywhere. It's very interesting to see. There's one right there. It's
so
very cool.
This is Steve kind of chiming in because like this is new to me.
Yeah.
I never made the connection, but I see it everywhere. Absolutely, I see it everywhere. I see it in Pokemon, right? Yeah. Like to Cargill's point, like it's a Pokemon. Yeah. Like how do you feel about like this and like how we've kind of represented these like I guess small people? Like what's the connection there and like what is the meaning?
I think the connection there and meaning is that I think if you talk about what like the wilderness, you compare the Ainu who live in Hokkaido, which is temperate in climate, and you compare them and contrast them against like metropolitan Japan. It's the same sort of narrative that you can see with the indigenous peoples of North America and every single colonizer of North America. Right? That's kind of how I see it. But that's how I see people representing Japan in general. I think people miss out on how diverse Japan is because they just think samurai, right? And that's what they've done here in Oriental Adventures. They think, oh, like samurai and ninja, Yakuza, that's Japan. And anything else that's like evil or weird, we'll throw that in there. And that's kind of what this reminds me of when we talk about hair. Because the Jomon men are known for, or the Ainu men, sorry, are known for having big beards.
Yeah.
Right. Very big beards. And then if you look at Ainu women, and they have tattoos. And what's really sad is, tattoos there's the lip tattoos. This one, she has the arm tattoos over here. Japan, tattoos are, very taboo, right? And incredibly taboo. You can't go to certain public baths if you have tattoos because they're associated with the Yakuza.
Right.
Which is really interesting because originally tattoos were really cool in Japan. When a certain book from China, The Water Margin, was translated into Japanese. And you might know about that story from a very popular JRPG series, Suikoden. Right? And for a while, samurai were getting tattoos because these heroes in The Water Margin, the 108 demon stars who came to Earth, some of the coolest heroes in there had tattoos. But then later on, we could do a whole episode on this, the tattoos became outlawed in Japan. And with tattoos being outlawed, you could see the effect that would have had on a group of people on Japan who traditionally wore tattoos to signify, their coming of age. which is why like that the hair thing really like sets me off. But let's move on.
Let's move on.
See you, dude.
There's a lot to speak about, like body hair and like what it means from a like Western lens.
Yeah. Spirit folk, pretty standard.
Yeah. Appear human, but their ancestry includes various spirits of nature. They're closely attuned to nature and natural forces.
Yeah, pretty standard.
So I think we got hit a little bit on like not knowing enough about AD&D.
We did.
I shouldn't say hit. We got criticized for it, and I think that's fair. I don't know much about AD&D.
But that's also just another form of gatekeeping in the hobby. It's like you don't know all the rules.
True, but I can respect people and be like, actually, this is not like an Oriental Adventures microaggression. This is like something that always existed, and I don't think people understand like that makes it kind of worse.
Yeah, and I said that earlier.
It's kind of like there was like a microaggression done that was supposed to like really hurt minorities, but like it was hard to make the connections. Then you publish something called Oriental Adventures, and those microaggressions become a lot larger. You can see like how it's actually affecting people of a certain like look.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, now it hurts a lot more. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, that's the thing. I said that earlier. Like they said that somebody commented that comeliness was in AD&D before this. I think somebody said it was in Unearthed Arcana. But like to your point, them being in here, it might not be that it's new, but the fact that it's being used with Asian shit makes it way worse. I think that's the point we're trying to make. I think most of this stuff over here is pretty just like, this is just rules.
It's rules on a separate kind of like conversation track. I can talk about alignment and how I fucking hate it. But that's neither here nor there.
It's interesting.
Not all classes are available to all characters of all four races. Table 9 shows which classes and races can be combined and how far characters of each race can progress in each class. These are all like mechanical things that just like are pervasive throughout AD&D.
There is something to read here, though. There is something to read here. So, for instance, the Corvo Crow, the small hairy men.
Yep.
They can't be Sohei, so they can't be enlightened warriors. It's interesting that they can only be 6 levels of samurai, 10 levels of barbarian, 7 levels of wujen, or 10 levels of Yakuza. One of the things I like that they took out of D&D is the racial prerequisites for certain classes.
Yes. Holy shit, yes.
Right, that's what I don't like here. Because yes, this is a rules thing and it was a part of AD&D. But there are also certain, I don't want to say they're microaggressions. They're just, there's certain things that are just really insensitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just don't think it holds up, because I think a part of this stream is showing what doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
Okay.
What doesn't hold up, and anything that like is built off of that doesn't hold up by definition.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at this and you're like, I'm gonna like iterate on it, then you're doing yourself a disservice. I think I had there was an article long ago that's now like only on web archives. You can't find it, about drow and the problems with them. And my favorite quote that I want printed on my tombstone is that fantasy races are a fantasy about race. And that just like is so succinct and so like powerful that just like.
You mean the article by John Kim, The Drow, a Case Study of Race in RPGs?
Almost certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to throw that in the chat. I don't know why, but I already have it on my phone.
It's a good article.
It was just sitting as a tab in my phone. I'm going to drop something in as my other account. Here you go.
Nice. Anyways. Yeah. Based on your race, obviously you can't achieve certain things in AD&D. That is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
A number of means a character listed race can belong to the listed class but cannot rise higher, blah blah. So for example, a wish spell can alter a character to rise 1 level above his racial maximum. Yeah, go ahead.
I just hate the idea of a racial maximum.
Oh yeah, it feels bad to say. And if you had a sensitivity writer, like a sensitivity writer would be like, I want you to really rephrase that.
Mm-hmm.
No, in quotes, means a character of the listed race cannot belong to the listed class. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Alignment restrictions apply to members of all races.
Okay, let's move down. Ability score limit. We kind of touched on this. This table is just a reworking of something they did in the previous section.
Yeah, I'm okay moving past that.
I think we should move past it and go to the part where they say Oriental races.
Yeah.
Here we go.
These books. Start reading? I need a break.
I'll start reading. I was gonna say.
Thank you.
We talked about alternating pages. Hey, we're on page 2 of this stream. One of the things that I find interesting about these is that there's just no art. It's just all text. And when you look at old AD&D books, they have some of them have no cover art either.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting design choice. I disagree with it, but it's a design choice that like it's hard to really make a moral distinction about.
I feel like it's a budget thing.
It could be a budget thing. If you take a look at DM's Guild, if you look at any of the Oriental Adventure kind of like offshoots, you'll see they have a similar vein where like it's black and white and no art. I like to think. Oh, are you gonna link something?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at something. What if you just searched Oriental?
So, not Oriental. You get more results for Orient because you'll get things like Heroes of the Orient, Arms and Equipment of the Orient, so on and so forth. I did this recently.
This is the one. Heroes of the Orient was the one that I was talking about last stream. I pulled that up.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I'm surprised you went for that one and not the Unearthed Arcana. Or is that the one you pulled up?
The one, which one?
The one with the woman.
The woman, yeah.
Naked.
I pulled that one up to kind of show two ways in which, people are depicted in Asia. I'm trying to find some variety here. I'm also looking for ones that are relatively high budget as well.
Yeah.
Or at least a pure high budget.
So I actually encourage our entire audience to go to DM's Guild and look at that object and then look at the comments. And I want you to read through like how harm was expressed and how the creators responded to it. Because in my opinion, it's actually quite clumsy. You see things like, oh, I thought the art was very good, so I published it because I thought it was very beautiful. But it does not address the fact that the women in the comments, I think they're women identified, were like, this causes harm. Why did you do this? And in the comments, it's mostly people from female identities who are like, this is a problem. Not even from like racial identities.
I'm looking at this. I don't want to give them my $10 for this Heroes of the Orient. I'm looking at this, and they do the exact same thing that Orientals does. They say, oh, here, Vanara, that's from South Asia. And they're combining things that are cool, and that's what the 3rd edition Oriental Adventures also did. And then, of course, this one makes the mistake of doing character archetypes for the different classes. So you're still going to be your druid in... Like, none of these things are even remotely Asian. Ugh. Paladin, Oath of the Stalwart Defender. How is that Asian?
I had a really great conversation with my partner about this. She's new to Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And she's like, please like explain to me why you can't just take a paladin and make it Asian. And I was like, let's talk about like what the oath means and like what that divine bond means and the challenge identity and all that kind of stuff, and how there's no like analogy to it. How that from the very base assumption of like a singular entity, you're kind of missing the point, right? And how, yeah, you can totally take challenge divinity and make it something else. You can take lay on hands and make it mean something else, despite the fact lay on hands is clearly like a Judeo-Christian idea. And at the end of it, once you're done like remaking the class, you've made so many changes that it's basically inaccessible, and that in itself causes harm to representation of Asians. Because
Yep.
if Asians are inaccessible, you basically said that, yeah, we are the Mystic East. And that, to quote HD Paladin, is like, that's terrifying.
Yep. I'm looking at this here. And first of all, the guy who wrote these two things is a white dude. Let's just, like, for the people who are like, you didn't Google people's names. Like, this is a white dude. This person, and this is what's wrong with a lot of the comments when we were talking about how people are portrayed in Oriental Adventures. This comment here, it was this year. To everyone offended by the cover, grow up. Nudity/partial nudity doesn't necessarily make something sexual. You're the same people that probably clutch your pearls and demand the museum cover up Michelangelo's David statue. My goodness. And here I thought the 80s Christian right was unnecessarily, unbearably prudish. Yikes. Great work, Mark. So, here's where this is wrong. First of all,
Yes.
the human body is a beautiful thing, and it's in all its different shapes and forms, right? But that's not what's wrong with the cover. It's not that the nudity is wrong. It's the fact that Asian women are constantly objectified, constantly placed in, like narratives where they use their sexuality to deceive and steal from white people, right? And that's what's being portrayed here. Like, what is the story behind this cover?
There is a comment on that page from the artist. Not from the artist, it's paraphrased from the artist, who's like, I was inspired by like all these things and what have you. And it just falls flat. They're like, I was inspired by like modern fashion and inspired by like Pan-Asian themes. And the fact of the matter is, having a woman be naked, showing off her side boob, is not even modern fashion. Like, the tattoo itself, like, I can't connect with it from like an Asian lens.
Yeah.
And that really hurts.
Yeah, I want to talk to this Mark A guy. Because first of all, he sounds like an asshole. Yeah, like, why, what, yeah, Mia said, like, I just want to know how she's in that pose. Like, I think, is she doing the splits or is, like, one leg kind of out? I'm sitting in my chair trying to do it. You know what I think we should do? I think we should just
post on your Insta.
We should remake all of these. Just, like, we'll draw very poorly on my back, my arms, and we'll remake this.
Then you have to make it your profile picture on all your social media.
No, we'll just call it Heroes. We'll call it Hero of the Orient.
Oh, use the same. We'll use the same D&D text and
Exactly.
make it on top.
Oh man.
My God.
And then there's just some reference there. There's a lot of these AD&D adventures. I feel like we gotta like try to play through one.
I disagree because I don't want to, but I think you're right. I think there's value to be had to like grab Conan. Let's say that was very recent.
Yeah.
Grab Conan and be like, hey, let's make some Conan characters and let's play through it, and let's talk about how like I don't want to do this anymore. And then we'll like document how, like, at what point certain people would stop playing this.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see this Oriental Adventures Swords of the Daimyo. So
Yeah,
David Zeb Cook is involved in the Oriental Adventures book. And just look at the character, the hero. And, like, I don't know what they were doing with the art style, but they were just like, how do we make them Asian? Let's give them yellow skin.
Those sandals look really itchy.
It's just bad. Anyways, let's go back to Oriental Adventures. I'm reading now.
Yeah.
Corvo Crow are a race of Oriental dwarves. Ugh. Living in vast jungles, snowy mountain forests, or barren wilderness areas, they seldom come into contact with humans. Corvo Crow prefer remote and forbidden sites of great natural beauty. There, they live in simple villages or camps, moving only when forced to by the advance of human settlements. In appearance, Corvo Crow are about 4 feet tall with arms and legs slightly longer in proportion to their bodies than a human's. I have something to say about that.
Yeah, me too.
Most are bow-legged. Their arms and legs are hairy, and the men have sparse beards. They have a wild, unkempt appearance. The majority are chaotic or neutral, although they have no alignment restrictions. Do you know what they just described? A chimpanzee.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they just described. Like, this is overtly offensive. So here's the thing. Let's do another Daniel science lesson, history lesson.
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
When we talk about longer limbs, bow-leggedness, right? What do long limbs imply? And you're short-statured. Let's keep it at that too, because if you're long-limbed and you're tall, that implies a very different thing. Because like people from sub-Saharan Africa have very, very long, are very tall in general, are very tall. They have long limbs because it helps you radiate heat. But in this case, if you are short-statured, but you have very, very long arms and legs, does that maybe, if mostly in the arms, imply that you are arboreal or ape-like in the sort of knuckle-dragging sense? Right? The bow-leggedness. Naturally, for the most part, human legs have something called the valgus angle. They kind of bend in. That valgus angle helps us stand on 2 feet. It helps us maintain bipedalism. Right? So in implying this, it means that they are less human. It's like, okay, well, how do we make them different? Rather than just being hobbits or halflings or actual dwarves, we have to dehumanize them. Because the dwarves and halflings and the gnomes in D&D, they don't dehumanize them. They're not portrayed as savage or anything like that. Maybe the dwarves are greedy. But like...
Because they're Jews?
Because they're supposed to be Jewish people, which is stupid.
Yeah.
Right? But these Corvo Crow are Oriental dwarves that are subhuman, even in their appearance. They also have a limit on what classes they can be. So therefore, because they are less than human, they are savage, they are barbarians, they are barbaric. It means they are exempt from achieving certain social statuses. I hate that.
Bow-leggedness is like a medical condition.
It is.
If you're a human being who have bow-leggedness, it's because you have a lack of vitamin D, and that means your diet is like you're most likely from a place, social standing, where you can't get proper vitamins and minerals from your diet.
Yep.
You're basically a victim of capitalism.
Yeah.
Even not that. Even just like you are poor and you cannot get the resources that you need. Your children will have rickets and they will look like this. And now we're talking about like how we perceive beauty and how we equate that to like goodness. And that makes me really upset. Like that's like super upsetting.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling back because this particular race, they can only really be barbarians and rogues, right?
Yeah, if you want to go back, I'm going to keep reading.
Yeah.
So Corvo Crow can be barbarians, bushi, samurai, and wujen. So they can't be anything particularly spiritual. There are many more barbarians among them than any other class, playing on the narrative that they're already writing about. Corvo Crow samurai are rare, since no Corvo Crow clans hold position high enough to be samurai castes. Corvo Crow samurai must be sponsored by a human clan. Yep. Somebody clip that. Corvo Crow are by nature less susceptible to magic than the other races. Because I think in Oriental Adventures, magic is perceived as something intellectual or spiritual.
Versus
whatever it is, right? They receive a saving throw bonus of +1 for every 4.5 points of Constitution when saving versus magical rods, staves, wands, and spells. That's just an unnecessary rule. They also receive the same bonus when saving versus any type of poison. Okay, Corvo Crow have infravision that ranges with a range of 120 feet. They have a 66% chance to recognize and identify any normal plant or animal. They receive a bonus of +1 to hit bakemono, goblins, goblin rats, and hobgoblins. Giants, oni, ogres, ogre magi, and titans suffer a penalty of -4 when trying to hit a Corvo Crow. Because of their small size, they cannot use the godaichi, the two-handed sword, any polearm other than the naginata, which makes no sense to me. If you folks don't know what a naginata is, it is essentially a spear with a katana blade at the end. It is badass.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to practice kendo, I got fucked up by somebody who was using one of those. I also got fucked up by a very tiny Japanese woman. Did I tell you that story about how I got confused by a two-sword style?
I would love to know how two-sword style confused you. That's a very weird way to describe that.
So, in high school, I practiced kendo. I have a full set of armor. And I was sparring with a senior student. And I only know how to use one sword. And this student came and had two swords. And I had never seen somebody use that before. And I did not know what to do. And I was paralyzed. And they completely fucked me up. They were fast. And I just didn't know where their attacks were coming from. It was a very, very humbling learning experience.
I love those kind of stories because, Daniel, I think you and I would agree that we both internalize a lot of racism and sexism based on where we grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the stories of being surprised because it's just a big middle finger to the systems that are in place that oppress people.
I'm constantly surprised by things.
and I love those moments. Did I ever tell you that the number one athlete in my gym is an Asian dude? And he does not look like it. So you look at the other athletes and what have you, and they look generally the white guys have a very specific look where they look oh yeah, that guy can squat or deadlift or bench press so much weight. But we have this Asian guy who's my height and very roughly my build. He's a little leaner than I am. But his athleticism is I would describe as Olympic level, even though it's really not.
Right.
But I've seen him do things that just blow my mind and are superhuman to my frame of knowledge. And that is coming from someone who lifts pretty frequently. I'm no stranger to the gym, but this man who's younger than me, he's very close to my age, has devoted his life to it, and he is superhuman. So Coach Richmond, if you ever watch this, Richmond, you are superhuman and you are my inspiration.
Have you ever seen Zhang Weili?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to type this into the chat for those who don't know how to spell Chinese names. Zhang Weili is is the first ever Chinese UFC belt holder. She is the current strawweight champion. So that's 115 pounds. So, interesting story. She's a complete underdog, and she knocked out the past champ, a Brazilian named Jessica Andrade, in less than 2 minutes. She's a beast. But what's interesting is that she recently defended her belt, and she actually had to escape China because of the COVID-19 outbreak that happened early there. And she had to flee to Thailand, and then from there flee to Abu Dhabi, and then from there flee to Vegas, just to make sure the fight happened. Her opponent, a Polish woman named Joanna Jędrzejczyk, I wonder if any of you know how to spell Yunjaychek, because it's not how it sounds. Basically, he posted this thing on social media of them like facing off against each other, and Joanna had photoshopped a gas mask on her face. Yeah, and Zhang Weili proceeded to beat the fuck out of her for 25 minutes. It's a good fight, but in talking about martial artists and very strong Asian people who defy these images of Asian people, she is one of them. Zhang Weili is great. Anyways, Corvo Crow gain a bonus of +1 to their initial strength and constitution scores, but lose 2 from their initial intelligence score. Ugh.
I'm gonna say that dwarves probably also had that. I don't know for sure. That feels right.
It feels right, but irregardless, we are contextualizing everything we read here within the Asian experience.
Correct. Yes, this feels right in this respect that AD&D in general had problems.
Yeah. Curse of Strahd, God. Ravenloft. Still.
Everyone in the audience tweet to me about Ravenloft and like the problems with it, because Ravenloft has such good stuff in it. There's so many good things about it. Did you watch Castlevania the next season?
Oh, I gotta catch up. I've only seen season 1. I'm gonna rewatch from the very beginning because I loved it.
There's so much about Ravenloft that could like be Castlevania as is portrayed in the Netflix series. That is like compelling for like a wide audience. Let's continue. We'll focus on later on.
Yeah, sorry, we're just crushing on Zhang Weili and Castlevania.
Yeah.
Yeah, that negative intelligence. That's almost like saying that, all barbarians in 3rd edition were illiterate. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were illiterate.
Actually, I'll say one more thing about this. I had a great conversation with someone who I presume was white, maybe not, but was like wanted to really consult with me about their new system for racial modifiers. And basically they had said that racial modifiers are just based on background and what have you. And that was really nice because they wanted to move away from bioessentialism.
Yeah.
But I was like really cool with that. But what they had done was, because they wanted to preserve a lot of the feel of D&D, had restricted them to maximums. A half-orc could only have a maximum of, making this up, 18 intelligence or what have you.
Yeah.
And I said, it's a step in the right direction, but you ultimately have failed in your quest to like remove bioessentialism. Because what you've said is that the smartest elf will always, always, always codified be smarter than the smartest orc.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about racial, I say it with air quotes, racial modifiers for hours, because I mean, from the perspective of biology, there are certain things about different ethnicities and different cultures and different ancestries that make people more suited to certain things, right? But that's a completely different conversation. D&D does need a big overhaul, but it would require changing most of the system. Culturally, Corvo Crow are much less advanced than most of their human neighbors. They hunt and tend small farms in secluded areas. First of all, hunting and tending small farms in secluded areas, that is basically what every human like does in ancient times. I don't see where that's different. And create simple pieces of art and craft. That, as an archaeologist, I fucking hate. Okay? Because the people who wrote this book know nothing about creating ceramic art. Nothing about art. Yeah, I tried to make, those Jomon pots, those beautiful ones that are inspired, that inspired the shrines in Breath of the Wild. I tried making one of those. I don't know how. I'm not even kidding. Like very few people know how they actually made it. People have done x-rays of those pots to try to see what techniques they used. I tried all of them. Here's the thing. When I said I tried to make one, I wasn't using store-bought clay. I actually went out and mined my own clay. I mined my own clay. I processed it using no mechanical tools. Okay? And I made a working pot. It took me 1 month to make a pot that was maybe this big. And I fired it not in a kiln, but in an actual fire. Like, simple art art that looks simple, there is a lot of skill behind that.
Yeah. I think this resonated with you. I watched a YouTube video recently about how rice cookers actually work. The first rice cooker, like the modern rice cooker that's like automated, didn't get invented like 1960, 1950 from Toshiba. And it's based on incredibly hard scientific physical properties of both rice and magnets. And that alone is like a feat of human ingenuity. And no one understands that. Like we have all these like really complex rice cookers and what have you.
Yeah.
That are too complex. The elegance and the simplicity of like a simple $20 rice cooker requires millennia worth of human ingenuity to even like come to.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
And I feel like this, like that type of sentiment where it's like turning down like these like feats of like, human ingenuity is really punching down and not punching up.
It really is.
You could absolutely say that like cultures that are able to make ceramics and handle ceramics and make these beautiful pieces of art, and I use art very broadly, that is like something to be celebrated. And this book, these writers, I'm gonna point out these writers. These writers chose to take those pieces of like cultural ingenuity and say, no. Those are insignificant, or even worse, they are just like inferior to what we understand as like a Western society.
Absolutely.
And that absolutely like it hurts a lot.
Yeah.
It causes harm.
Absolutely. I agree. And like that hits me as a a former scholar of this. They normally avoid human contact. Because of this and the general conceit of humans, hey, that is a positive thing. Humans fucking suck in D&D. Humans fucking suck. Humans consider Corvo Crow to be backward primitives and rarely accept them as all members of human society, as full members of human society. They are typically seen as rude, pugnacious, boastful, and somewhat comical by the rest of the world. I think that's just every single point we've just been making about this book, and they've basically tried to justify these biases they have and systematize it using the lore of the Forgotten Realms that humans are assholes. Well, the humans that wrote this, say what you want about them. I'll let you do that.
Yeah.
Corvo Crow organize themselves into families and clans much the same way as humans do. Player characters must belong to a family either assigned by the DM or designed by the player. Okay. Henga Yokai. Henga Yokai are intelligent, shape-changing animals. Several sub-races exist, each a different type of animal. They are found throughout the Oriental world. I hate that. Usually on the sorry, I hate that.
Clip that.
Fucking
Clip Daniel just saying I fucking
hate that. I hate that. Usually on the fringes of human-settled lands. The ability to change shape is natural to Henga Yokai. They are not lycanthropes, and they do not have any of the symptoms of lycanthropy. They are not limited by cycles of the moon, are not especially susceptible to silver weapons, cannot transmit their powers through wounds, and cannot heal their own wounds merely by changing shape. A Henga Yokai can be a Shukenja, Kensei, Bushi, or Wujen. He can never be a samurai or ninja, since he's not human. What the fuck does that mean? If you were a shape-changing humanoid or animal, wouldn't that make you a better ninja?
Okay. While you were going through that, my favorite, as like someone who identifies as Asian, my favorite representation of like the idea behind animal spiritualism. I drank a bottle of wine tonight. And like human, like colonial society and what have you, was an episode of Love, Death, and Robots. Have you seen all of Love, Death, and Robots?
No, I've only seen the first couple episodes, but I love the animation. Holy cow.
Oh my god. So yeah, it's like a lot of like artistic representation. So I'd like you to, when you have time, check out Good Hunting. It's episode 8 of season 1.
What's it about?
So I'm not going to ruin too much.
Okay.
But there are two human hunters who are hunting basically like a yokai, like a animal spirit.
Oh, cool.
And the father and the son are hunting them. And the father is like, I'm gonna engage them with like hand-to-hand combat. I need you to like do this like very like spiritualist, like throw this thing on them.
Right.
That's going to like disable them. That's very like mythical. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Then the son realizes that like they have a whole society, a whole family of like animal spirits, and just like doesn't really understand or really questions what it means to be a hunter.
Okay.
Then it fast forwards 20 years.
All right.
Where the British have invaded China.
Oh no.
Fantasy China.
Okay.
And they've
God.
used the magic and what have you to put in trains and machines, and it becomes very steampunk. Basically, magic leaves the world and it becomes steampunk.
I hate steampunk.
But here's what
I hate
happens.
Steampunk.
The man who used to be like a spiritual hunter, who used to like be attuned to spirits to hunt them, understands that like mysticism about it translated to technology and gears and all that stuff, and uses that to build up another yokai to fight back and say, no, like, even though you've taken away all my forests and all of like the things that I love,
Yeah.
I'll fight back with the things that you've now like replaced them with. And it's a very like for me, it was very like touching.
That sounds cool. I gotta watch that.
It's Love, Death, and Robots. That's
Episode 8.
Episode 8. It's called Good Hunting, and it's all about the colonization of Hong Kong.
That's pretty cool. I'll have to look into that. As a side note, I just saw something on my phone. Our YouTube channel, which just exists as of this week, we just hit 666 views. 666. Wow. Yeah. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, here we go. A player who decides to have a Hanga Yokai player character must have the minimum required scores for the race before modifications for animal type. Then he must choose his character's animal form. The traditional forms are carp, cat, crab, crane, dog, drake, fox, hare, monkey, raccoon dog, tanuki, rat, and sparrow. Table 11 lists the alignment restrictions and special abilities of each creature. Okay, not so bad. I want to see what one of these looks like. Are they just like humanoid animals? But they're shape-shifting, so are they like... Is the fox, is that a kitsune? Is that what it's supposed to be?
From a design perspective, those particular animals are so like widely changed, and there's so many of them that I really question if they're balanced. But that's a game design perspective.
Why is the raccoon dog evil? That's got it. I don't want to make any assumptions, but I wonder if that's a cultural thing. Could somebody look that up? If a raccoon dog, the tanuki, in Japanese culture, was where they figure heavily. Is there anything evil associated with them?
They're tricksters. That's from what I understand. They're tricksters, right?
Okay.
If you want to associate being a trickster with evil, that is a fault of like the alignment system.
Yeah, that is. Okay, they're tricksters. Rip and tear, AJ. I feel like rip and tear should be a shirt.
I'd wear it.
I'd wear it.
I'd cut the sleeves off. I'd wear it.
I think it should come sleeveless. Ooh. For those of you who are in the chat right now, we are working on merch, clothing. That's all I'll say.
Can I suggest that we try to finish this page and then kind of do our closing here?
Yeah. Oh my God, it's an hour 45. Yes.
Yeah.
So alignment. We already kind of talked about that. This is the fault of the D&D system. So foxes, I get, are tricksters. Tanuki, I guess, are tricksters. Rats are supposed to be tricksters. Monkey, chaotic. I kind of get that. I love how crab is any.
Sorry, I'm going to pause. The idea that rats are tricksters and therefore evil really stings me. I hate that.
Well, I think that's because the alignment system in D&D is so flawed.
Yes, right? It absolutely is.
I love the dramatic poles. That's the one I like.
I actually, for my groups, I don't do dramatic polls. I found that a lot of my players really resonate with like reach for a goal and my players want to just
A
like
J,
progress
okay.
progress to a goal.
A J. That's a. So am I pronouncing it right? A J.
Oh,
Let me know if I'm saying it right.
that is alerting for me as well. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
I've been following you on Twitter for a while, and I love the shit that you post. So I'm glad I can learn how to properly pronounce your name. That makes me feel good. But I was talking about rats. My father is a rat zodiac by birth.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're 2 years younger than me,
I'm
right?
a snake.
You're a snake. I'm a
Slytherin.
dragon.
Oh, that's cool.
That's really cool.
I'm basically. I'm a snake. I'm a land dragon. You're an air dragon. That's what it's gonna really be.
Fair. I think my dad was a rat. My mom was a pig or boar. And like there was a lot of weird conversation we've had as like a family about our zodiac signs, and they never made me feel comfortable, ever.
Yeah.
Me as a dragon too. Fuck yeah, represent.
Yeah. I think you and Mia are the same age.
Oh yeah, we're age twinsies. Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about this.
Yeah. Man, now I want a shirt that's like Sky Dragon and Land Dragon, and then the Land Dragon is just a snake, and then the Sky Dragon is a Chinese dragon. I
Like a
want that.
noodle in the air.
It's a noodle in the air. Oh, that's what I want. I should put that in my merch thing. We have a spreadsheet. Anyways,
Yeah. Take us home.
take us home. Okay, this is just like stuff we don't really need because you could see the modifications. Those are just stereotypes associated with animals. I think it's interesting that they gave the rat +2 con and -2 charisma.
I agree with it because the rat in this narrative context is supposed to be immune to disease.
Yeah,
It's garbage eating.
It's garbage eater. Okay. Anyways,
Which is bad. That's not what the rat is supposed to represent.
Nope.
But I know what you're trying to do, and mechanically, based on the parameters you've already set, it made sense. I can follow you logically.
None of this is particularly offensive. I'm reading through it. These are all just rules.
Here's what I would say.
Can't use weapons, armor, equipment when you're in animal form. They haven't really talked about their non-animal form. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of weird. Like they're defined by like their non-human aspect.
Mm-hmm.
That's
here we go.
concerning.
A Hanga yokai can assume any one of 3 shapes: its animal form, its human form, and a bipedal form that combines both animal and human features. This ability is limited, however. The number of times a Hanga yokai can change forms in one day equals his level. Thus, a first level Hanga yokai can change from human to animal form once in a day. He then has to remain in animal form until the next day, when he can change to human or bipedal form. Well, first of all, human and bipedal are the same thing. Anyways, a third level Hanga yokai could change form 3 times in one day. Okay. Not as bad as like the Pathfinder Kitsune, which has to be a beautiful white person.
Oh no. Okay, link me that after this. Or link it in chat.
It's not that it has to be. It's the art that portrays. I gotta pull it up now.
Because like Pathfinder for me is so interesting because they do a lot of things that like really resonate with me as a person of color, and they do a lot of things where I'm like, hey, don't do that. And yeah,
Kitsune, it is Asian. Like that's the Kitsune art in the Pathfinder. I forget which book it's in. Advanced Race Guide, I think is the book it's in. But they always make them look like a white person, which makes no sense to me.
watch the Death, Love, and Robots, because it is a fox creature, and it feels Asian, and I can't describe it any better than that.
I'll check it out.
I think it might be because their human form is clearly coded Asian.
At least it's coded Asian.
I think it's coded Asian as like a very personal from like the writer and the artist. I did a little bit of research into like who like was creative behind it, and you do see a lot of Asian voices behind it, despite the fact that the show doesn't like celebrate it.
Dang.
I will say the next page is about bipedal form.
Yeah, I just went ahead. Bipedal form. Yeah, it makes sense. It's a little odd. It's just a look thing. They've basically taken the whole like you will have some signifier of your animal side, your animalistic side in your human form, which like you see everywhere. So I can't be mad at that. They have their own language.
So this is where I'll say like this is absolutely where you want to start bringing in sensitivity writers and what have you to start like looking at this, because the idea of like the communion between people and animals is like very close to a lot of cultures.
It is.
And you don't want to misrepresent it. You don't want to alienate someone to be like, oh, we took the things that we thought as an example, like cis het white men that we thought were cool and threw away the rest. You don't want to be stuck in that position. In fact, if I can flip it towards like not being negative but positive, a cultural consultant will tell you that like, hey, you missed these really cool things about the connection between animal spirits and spirituality in general and what it means to be human. And I haven't read word for word for this section. I might do it kind of after the stream is done. But
this is one thing I'm curious about. Most Hanga Yokai are chaotic, although player character Hanga Yokai can be lawful or neutral. Various animal types must be good or evil, as noted in Table 11. And here's where I think it's sketchy. The alignment tendencies of the various animals are well known by humans, who will treat Hanga Yokai accordingly. A badger Hanga Yokai, for example, will be shunned by humans because they know it is evil, even though it's in its human form. Which I think is a little strange.
Badger's not on the table.
The badger's not on the table?
Scroll up.
It's on the table.
Anyways, yeah.
Oh, Gary. Yeah. Oh, God. It's interesting that they are outsiders. Like, because I kind of like the idea of playing if I were to do this, I would play a character who's a Hanga Yokai, but maybe is a secret, and their family is ashamed of them, and they're trying to keep them a secret.
I would love as Steve to talk about the tension, the poles of being mixed race with a spirit folk.
Well, that's what it is. Yeah. So do we want to end on Hanga Yokai?
I would like to.
Yeah, let's do it. Because
this has been a lot.
This has been.
We made less progress on this one, but I feel like we got a lot out of. There was a lot of stuff from like last reading that we didn't really express that we used this time to express.
Yeah, I would say that we were definitely like right in the middle on our conversation. There were some positives and we pointed them out. There were a lot of negatives. We definitely took these negatives and went and explored other things, which I think was good. I don't mind us going this slow. I think that it's important that we, dive into why these things, even though they exist in other AD&D books, are particularly harmful when situated within an Asian context here. And I think that's what's important. Because once we're done, page 13, we go right into classes. Now, I think what we're going to do is, honestly, for the next one, I really think we need to bring in another person. And not because I don't think Steve and I are qualified to do this, but I think it's nice to have another voice at the table.
Yeah. I mean, like, I haven't said it explicitly, but I will now that, like, I don't have a background in, like, Pan-Asian history. All I can really provide is, like, how I've lived my life as, like, a 30-plus-year-old man living in North America, living in Toronto, Ontario, and kind of, like, how these things make me feel, which I hope people, like, find value in. But there are other people who have, like, studied things and can, like, speak to these things in a very concrete, very academic way. All I can do is really swear and drink on stream, which if, like, you want to see, cool. I'm happy to do that.
I'll talk about pottery all day. all day. You know what? Before we go, I'll actually bring up a pot that I made at the peak of my skill. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. You've seen it, Steve, haven't you?
You've shown me a pot, but you haven't shown me the pot you crafted.
I'll show you some. Not the
Okay,
one that I
cool.
crafted. This one I crafted on a wheel. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'll vamp for a little bit, and I'll say that I'm actually very appreciative of like the entire audience that stuck around and what have you. Oriental Adventures is like it's a sore spot for me because like I read through these things, and I tweeted about this earlier today where I'm like the ramifications of Oriental Adventures throughout. Daniel's just like yelling, he's like scrambling around. The ramifications of Oriental Adventures pervades through all media that we see. I talked about how like, Conan recently kind of like had this new RPG Rust supplement where we talk about the exotic East,
I'm back.
and that just causes so much harm. And I got distracted because that ceramic looks very, very nice.
Thank you. It is teal. It matches my hair.
At least for the next couple months, right?
At least for the next couple of months. I did a whole series of teal ceramics. This one is actually dipped in like a glass, like a glaze on the outside. So I like dipped it. Yeah, it has my little signature on the bottom. I did like a whole series of these. I love pottery. I was the only dude in my class, and I did pottery with the voice actress who did the voice of Luna, the cat from Sailor Moon.
No. What?
Yeah, she sat next to me every class.
The history of Sailor Moon from like the ocean dub is so fascinating to me. I love that. I think it's great.
I did a whole episode of my Patreon series, Anything But D&D. I have one coming out on the 17th, and it's on voice acting.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
So, I think we need to bring in a person for the next episode.
Yeah.
We'll find someone. Because we know what we're diving into. We're finishing it with Spirit Folk, and we're going into classes. Honestly, it doesn't have to be like a designer. I would honestly love to do this with like Serena. Yeah, because I know Serena's wanted to collaborate with us. Honestly, I would love to just do a one-off and do the 3rd edition one, but do the art and have Mia on it. We'll
heard it. Fucking
you
get
heard
on
it.
here.
Get on here. If you
Tweet Daniel.
Yeah, Mia. If you want to join us for the next Friday's stream, let me know. I know there's a time difference, so we'll figure it out. But if you want to, the invite is there. I think we need to bring on guests. Like, I don't mind us taking a break from Oriental Adventures and doing a different book, because I think a crossover adventure with Lore Diver.
Yeah, holy shit.
Can it just be like we read about Chult for the first time and just get edumacated?
Oh.
Because I think that would be good.
It worries me. It worries me because I know some things about Chult, and as Steve, I read it and I'm like, I don't want to read it anymore. But I would love to be educated about it because obviously, like, I'm here to like represent people. I'm here to fight. I'm here to speak my mind and represent, and not be silenced or tone policed.
Boom, and that's why we're doing this. That's why Asians Represent exists. So
yes,
we're gonna do another episode every Friday, 7 p.m. Call it quarantine stream. Hashtag Asian.
Quarant stream.
Hashtag Asians read. Steve and I got through 2.5 pages today. But I think we had a really, really good conversation. I was honestly so happy. If you were able to only tune in for the last half, you know what, like, go on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel now. I'm going to be posting all of these there. And I'm also going to be posting Representicon there. But I could also repost Representicon here because this Twitch channel is now an affiliate channel. What?
Yeah.
Crazy. So, well, thank everyone for joining us for this Asians Read stream where we did 2.5 pages of Oriental Adventures. Next time I think we gotta just work faster. We got on a lot of tangents.
I feel like got tangents, but like I said, those tangents really came from like our first reading. I think like time reveals a lot of these wounds, and you and I have internalized like a lot of this stuff. We played tabletop adventures, we played D&D for a long time, and it's hard to really kind of like separate out our true feelings about it versus the text that's here.
True. I also it is like a reaction video. I think I'm happy because we can't really do Dungeons and Asians. Like, because we said, like, a part of the magic of Dungeons and Asians is that we do it in person. And we could have things like Kiana and Steve looking into each other's eyes while Amara and I are literally like this, watching. Like, that, you can't replicate that online. That exact feeling is not going to be the same. You might get it, but not in the way that we did. So I think with Dungeons and Asians on hold, it gives me time to write. Because, look, for those of you who are here, I've been thinking long and hard about Ning and how I want to challenge Ning. I'm telling you this, Steve. I'm going to challenge you.
Okay, great.
I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge your values, your characters, not you, but your characters' values. But I've also been thinking about Dongfeng and what Dongfeng's mysterious origin is and why the demons, the Mogwai, know who Dongfeng is.
I'm so excited for it because I know that inside of that, it's going to be so much like the challenge to Steve and to Ning is going to be so compelling.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I want to try streaming or just recording one-off episodes of Dungeons and Asians. I mean, yeah, like Dongfeng was always cast out of heaven, kind of like the Monkey King. But why? That's the big question. I want to do one-shots about the world. So in the last episode, the Shadow Marquee, when you found that camp and everyone there was dead and the flowers were growing out of the corpse, how did that group get there? I want to do a session where everybody dies at the end.
Yeah. And I love that you're so open to like not using Dungeons and Dragons for all like the things. Like everyone dies at the end. You describe 10 candles. Oh,
10 candles.
10 candles.
Like we just got to figure out how to do 10 candles virtually. Or I just have a camera on 10 candles. Oh shit.
I think it works even in podcast form where like if you can throw in the one sound effects for like the candle being blown out.
Oh,
anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways,
one shots are fun, but the reason why I brought that up is because I want to do it with members of the community. So if you are interested in being a part of this and participating in this, like, and you Asian, hit us up, AZNS represent on Twitter. Send us a message. I wanna play D&D Dungeon World. Maybe we'll play Microscope online. Maybe we'll play 10 Candles online. I want to tell stories around the main characters. I want to flesh out that world. No, I'm going to keep this from Steve. Unless Steve listens to the podcast feed, then Steve will not know what's coming.
I love how you just assume like I don't listen to the podcast. I absolutely do because I love listening to my own voice.
No, I know you do. But then it will be a surprise for you. And then you'll be like, oh, when's this going to happen to Ning? Because, like, look, okay, because Amara's not here and I don't think Amara's in the chat. I want to tell all of you what I want to do. I want to do games set in the different kingdoms surrounding Sha. Here's my idea. I want to set several games around the exact moment when that jade fell from the sky.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Teach me how to play Bolt and we'll do it. Here's the thing. In Daesh, where Walid is from, maybe those characters see the jade drop as something prophetic. And at the end of this adventure, they send a group of people across the Cerulean Sea to go to Sha. And maybe that person who's on that boat, that captain, is Waleed's father. Oh, snap. That's what I want to do. I want to do something in Nawa, which is our Southeast Asia, that Ben Chung and Mahar both came up with when we were at Big Bekon. Like, I want to do these things. I want to tell stories in different kingdoms, but I want to show that the story that's happening in Sha is not viewed as the same outside of the cultural borders of Sha. That's what I want to do. And so I think quarantine is the perfect time to do that.
Make something positive out of something that's not so positive.
Yeah. But anyways, let's call this stream. Thank you everyone for joining us. You could find Steve on social media at DM Steve, me at Daniel H. Kwan, and of course Asians Represent at AZNS Represent on all social media platforms except for TikTok.
That's a good qualifier. I like that
except
one.
for TikTok, and I guess Snapchat. So just Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And soon YouTube. Once we hit 100 subscribers on YouTube, we can then claim AZNS Represent on YouTube. So, thank you for joining us. I'm going to end the stream now. All of you are amazing, wonderful people, and I'm going to watch Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh my god, yeah. Holy shit, you're gonna get fucking pumped. You might not be able to sleep.
Yo,
it's so
dude,
fucking good.
I just feel like so inspired. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been doing this 100 push-up challenge, and I'm trying to train myself to do 100 consecutive push-ups.
You and me both. So right now, like you saw, like I did 50.
Your audio.
So what happened?
Steve got so hyped, his audio got fucked up.
Hey, can you still hear me?
Yeah, you sound like really weird.
Oh, that's just me. I did 50. 60 is really close. Just you wait.
I'm working up to it. I can do like 35, but my guns aren't like Steve. Those are my guns right there.
It's okay. It's okay. It's just like
I'm not as jacked as Steve, but I'm getting there.
Get there. Okay, we flex it out, and that's the end of the stream.
Okay.
Peace out, y'all.
Bye.